right.
Should I do what Arthur normally does? And
flip me off?
Yeah, so everybody shut up.
Hello and welcome to Rebel FM episode 344.
Question mark? Question mark? Exclamation point? Question mark?
We're actually sitting at a computer.
So you can check.
I can check.
That's okay. You had to break your streak at some point.
It's actually, let's see, it's 345.
Oh, damn.
I blame it solely upon the fact that Dr. Jones did not warn me.
Oh, so. Was he warning you before? Is that how you kept getting it right? Is you actually had help from a third party?
Yes, he would at one point always put me at gunpoint in Battlegrounds and say, "Tell me the episode number." So
I assume you've been playing more Battlegrounds.
Yeah, I'm at the Gagos. Joining me is Matt Chandronay.
Oh, hi.
For the people not watching this live.
Right. We're actually streaming on Twitch for the first time, I guess.
Yeah. Arthur and James are at the International, where everybody's favorite North American team is out.
Oh, no.
So, yeah.
The EG?
Yeah.
They got eliminated?
They got eliminated.
Oh, wow. What round was it?
They took 6th or something like that, or 8th. Either way, they still are going to walk away with a year's salary, a year of a normal working Bay Area person's salary.
Wow.
Out of it.
Damn.
You know? So
yeah, being 6th in this year's international is no slouch compared to, in previous years, I'm sure it was oh, hey, this is a nice cash bump or whatever, but I still got to go back to my regular job after this.
Right. Okay, but Johnny Mattis says they took 8th. So yeah, even 8th, I'm pretty sure was something like $500,000, so. Yeah. Plus, they already have all their old. Plus, they won millions of dollars 2 years ago. So they're not exactly hurting.
Right. Another walker says, "Matt, I love you." I just have to call that out because he spelled my name with 3 T's.
Well, extra emphasis. But yeah, so they're not here, but we're going to record kind of a regular show and hopefully take questions both from emails, which I'll bring up, as well as
the Twitch chat. I don't know if anybody tweeted at us. I can't actually get to my phone to check Twitter because there's a giant black cat in my lap. Yeah. You can't see her in the camera, but she's here. Good old Pee-Pee. So if you hear any meows or really loud purring, that's Anthony's cat. I mean, it really wouldn't be Rebel without cats, I guess.
No, it wouldn't. And if you're hearing your keyboard right now, it's because I was typing. So.
Oh, and the speaking of T-shirts, we still have T-shirts up for sale, I assume. Speaking of cats, I should say, because there are cats on both T-shirts. Arthur did some really great designs. I don't know if people have been checking those out, but he basically did 2 versions of new Rebel FM T-shirts, and one is with his cat Freya, and the other is an illustration of his cat Lady, and they're very cool.
Right. If you check out if you're watching on Twitch right now and you scroll down, on my page is actually a link to it.
Nice.
So people can check it out.
And people who are not watching on Twitch, if you're listening to this later, it's tinyurl/RFM shirts.
Yeah. Jones, Dr. Jones on Twitch says, T-shirts available only in non-fat person sizes. I would call it they're available in for you, who I know is on an extreme weight loss regime, aspirational sizes.
Aspirational sizes.
Yeah. No, actually, we would like to look into getting larger sizes.
A couple people have asked us for larger sizes.
I'll talk with Arthur. Arthur's just been kind of unavailable.
Yeah. He's been going through a lot of stuff recently.
Yeah. Hopefully,
good stuff. At
the top of the show, if you're listening to this after, we'll clip it in. But if you don't know, for people that are listening now, Arthur's leaving Polygon.
Yep.
So he's no longer going to be the reviews editor there. He's going to pursue a master's in art.
Yep.
So, I think that's going to be good.
That's awesome. Yeah, he got accepted to a school that he's starting in very soon. This has been a long ongoing process with him. So there was some pretty shitty stuff that went down with Polygon this week, and Arthur's leaving is completely unrelated. This whole thing was planned long in advance. He's been talking to us about his dream of going back and getting his art degree. And
I mean, yeah, when I met Arthur, there was no idea about working in video games. Arthur was an art major who painted all the time and was, I think, even doing web development with some graphic work and stuff like that. And and even when he worked at IGN and stuff like that, he was always finding little ways to do art and stuff like that on the side. So
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was only a matter of time.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And so he's going for it, man.
But luckily for him, he's staying local. Well, for him and for us.
And for us.
He's staying local, so it's not like it'll be another situation where we're Skyping someone in or anything like that. It's going to be just a very... for as far as we're concerned, nothing changes.
Yeah.
Maybe Arthur doesn't get the same amount of access to games before they come out, but I feel like that matters less and less. Because I feel like there's less preview cycle anyways for a lot of games.
I feel like a lot of people are avoiding previews more these days. I mean, like when I first started in the games press and when you first started in the games press, previews were a big part of site traffic, and they seem to be a lot less these days. It seems to be a lot more about content surrounding games rather than previews themselves. But I could be talking out of my ass. Like,
I mean, E3 previews obviously still do well, I think, just because that's when the excitement's in there.
Mm-hmm.
But it isn't the same thing where, like when Arthur and I were in the press in, like, 2011 or something, when we were both going to, like, 8 Army of 2 events a year. Like,
right.
And it's just like...
and they would drip feed, like, oh, this new character came out. And they still do all that kind of stuff.
Here's 4 new guns, but now it's just a press release or a video.
Yeah.
They've realized that they can just do it as a video, and sites will post it because video views are worth a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
So...
speaking of aspirational t-shirt sizes, Shoujo says, Anthony, you look great, man. Looks like you've lost a lot of weight.
It's funny you say that because I also just... crammed an entire carnitas burrito in the length of the car.
It was pretty good.
I have been doing a lot more running, though. I have an elliptical that I've actually started using, so that was like my Christmas present for both me and my fiance, was a somewhat expensive elliptical.
Do you like it?
I love it. I watch an episode of Star Trek. I'm finally finishing Deep Space Nine, and I put that on, and I just go to town and do like 2 to 3 miles.
Oh man, that's sort of like my ideal situation would be able to like watch TV.
It's about doing it at home. Like I had a gym membership in Seattle, and all I would do is go to the gym pretty much to do cardio. So for that purpose, it was nice just to have a cardio machine.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, Deep Space Nine was was like the last Star Trek I ever tried to watch because it seemed so boring to me. I was like, it's a space station.
They don't go anywhere, man.
And I watched the first episode and it was so slow. And I was like, I really don't get it. But then as it goes on, it's like more of a character drama than any of the other shows. Yeah. And it deals with like way more screwed up issues than like the other Star Treks. They deal with moral issues and stuff, of course. Yeah. And there's like a really good, like, people shit all over Enterprise, but I think there's one episode of Enterprise when they fuck up First Contact so bad and someone ends up committing suicide because of it.
Right.
That episode was like deep, but like Deep Space Nine tackles all kinds of things that are like, like that's a thing you could watch to be like, this is why internment camps are fucked up, this is why occupations are fucked up, but also kind of weird and gray for the occupying forces. And just like crazy amounts of racism. Like none of the other Star Trek shows really have racism as much as this one. Like this one's
it's front and center with the whole, Cardassian Bajoran conflict and the legacy that they're dealing with it. And there's a lot of post-colonialist commentary in it, and it's pretty crazy. I love that show a lot. And
it also makes the Federation, like, it's weird to see the Federation, like, when you watch all the other shows, the Federation aren't in wartime. Yeah. But a wartime Federation, what that looks like is very different. Yeah. And yes, I get it, Dr. Jones, they go places all the time, especially once they got the Defiant, which I think was like intentionally introduced for that reason. But before that, in my perception, they weren't going to be going places, Yep.
Wow. And I agree with Johnny Mattis, who says Worf plus Defiant equals win. Yep.
Yeah, both Worf and Lieutenant O'Brien developed a lot more.
Yeah. Coming from Next Generation into DS9.
Our first question comes from Wallace6969, who says, do you think gross pay models... Gross? I think he means... Okay, actually, it's like disgusting. Pay models like loot boxes in full-price games will ever go away? No.
Like loot boxes in full-price games will ever... Yeah, no. Never.
Yeah, well, especially when it's an optional transaction. Like, it doesn't bother me, like in... I know that one of the instances of this is the upcoming sequel to Shadow of War. It's just called Shadow of War.
Oh, yeah.
And, which is the sequel to Shadow of Mordor. Right. And that one has loot boxes. But as far as I've seen, they seem like optional cosmetics. Which, in that case, it doesn't really bother me. Yeah. because I don't really care that much about cosmetics. I guess
Yeah.
if I was one of those people that like freaked out in Overwatch because there's like an emote that I really have to have, it would bother me or something. But
or in games like Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer, which if you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, you know I love the shit out of that, and I still love it. It has loot boxes and loot crates, and you unlock characters, you unlock weapons, you unlock all kinds of stuff, but you get so much of the in-game currency just by playing the game, you never really feel shortchanged. You never really feel pressure to go get it unless you're just like, I just want to throw down some money it's really good deals where if you throw down like $10, you can unlock like 20 boxes or whatever. I don't know how many, but you can unlock a whole bunch of stuff. But you just never feel pressure to do it. The game is always fun, and after every match you have enough to unlock a certain level of loot crate. And then once you're playing at harder difficulties, after 1 or 2 matches, you can open the highest level of loot crate. So you never feel like you're really being limited the way that a lot of free-to-play models do. In contrast, my Fortnite games have really slowed down to the point like, I'll see some loot llama will come on sale and say, a loot llama special, 1,200 V-Bucks or whatever. And I'll look at the quests that I have and the stuff that I can do to get V-Bucks.
Not even going to come close.
Not even going to come close. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get 1,500 V-Bucks in the next 8 or 9 hours. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I get people feel that it feels weird in a single-player game. I think, to me, if I was designing it, I would at least want there to be a way to grind them out for free, like not necessarily a fully paid option, because at that point I'd just be like, let's just sell the costumes a la carte. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know that it's going to go away, especially I think that the question of whether it will go away will be when Shadow of War comes out, did they make money hand over fist with them?
Right.
Then it's not going to go away.
Right.
Because then it proves that as much as people complain, they will still buy them.
Yep.
And in that case, that just means that further funds development. Like, I can't even imagine how expensive a game like Shadow of War is to make.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Like,
well, I think one thing that a lot of people don't really take into account in terms of the market is, a full price game is still $60. They've been $60 for a really long time.
Like since at least like 2005-ish at least.
Yeah. So the real costs of games has actually gone down, not up.
Yeah, because because of inflation.
Because of inflation, exactly.
Yeah.
So that means that they have to sell more units and they have to find alternate revenue models because, there's the flip side of that, of course, which is all tied into it, is all the games out there that are just way cheaper, and the Steam sales and everything is all playing into the devaluation of games. So, even huge AAA developers are feeling a pinch on their major properties in the way that perhaps they weren't before. So I kind of understand that. But I think on the consumer end of it, it feels a lot better, and it makes a lot more sense to pay for loot crates in a multiplayer game, because a multiplayer game, or the multiplayer component of the game, is clearly continuing to be in active development. And you're like, okay, I'm continuing to fund this experience.
Yeah. And in some ways, people may, I don't know, they may be funding the further development of content for Shadow of War. But
right, they may be, yeah.
Bruce Wayne Brady asks, Overwatch announced a league with teams in 7 or 8 cities. Do you think this could attract non-gamers to esports? Seems like a tough game to keep up with compared to fighters or battlegrounds. I don't know that they need to keep up with, or they need to attract non-gamers, because I feel like all Blizzard wants to do is keep Overwatch in people's brains, because as long as Overwatch continues to be in people's brains, for the figures I've heard, between Overwatch and Hearthstone, they're making an absurd amount of money. So all they need to do is keep people engaging with their games, and people will keep spending money on them. So
I still maintain that most FPSs, and Overwatch is guilty of this as well, are really difficult to watch as esports. Nobody's figured it out yet. Nobody's done it right. Not that Blizzard couldn't, but they don't seem to have any of the systems in place in order to make something eminently watchable. Like, I was super excited when Black Ops, was like really moving into esports casting and stuff.
Totally.
Like that.
Even with the times when they got it working on a regular Xbox 360, and you were like, holy crap, I can't believe they're actually getting streaming working on a 360. Like, that was crazy.
And they had a caster mode, where it's like if you had 2 teams of 6, you could have a 7th one on a LAN, and that 7th one, its only purpose to be in the multiplayer game was as a caster mode.
Bring up a map and see where the guys are moving and see where the kills were.
Yep, and to switch between different first players' cameras and like bring up a bunch of different heat maps and stuff like that. I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is going to, Call of Duty, they're starting a trend. People are going to do this. People are going to really focus on this. And nobody ever picked up that and ran with it. I mean, maybe it's too expensive to maintain. Maybe people didn't want to do the development time on it. But it's like, Overwatch is really great to watch on Twitch because you're just watching one player do their thing. But FPS tournaments are really hard to watch.
Yeah. Carl Germ from Software and Bandai Namco, both listed as third-party support for Nintendo Switch. What do you guys think the likelihood is of a Dark Souls port on Switch? I feel like if they can do Skyrim, they can do at least Dark Souls 1. I have no clue about the technical prowess or ability of the Switch to output like that engine or something.
Me either. I have no idea how efficient that engine is, how well it's done. Dark Souls did come out after Skyrim, right?
Right, and there are other 360 games. Like if Skyrim was a 360 game, I suppose there's a chance that it could be that they could make it work, but or they're going to make something original, maybe. I don't know. Like if Nintendo wanted to help fund it, I don't know.
I mean, I can totally see them doing a Dark Souls port or something like that. There's no reason not to resell something on a new console that just came out, especially if it's, older enough and the tech is compatible enough.
And there's enough of them out there and not that many games of that type, especially.
Yeah. Now, I do know that on Skyrim, this basically the NVIDIA Tegra chip that's in the Switch is essentially high to mid-range capable for the graphics cards that were out at the time that Skyrim came out. I don't know if that's true with Dark Souls or not. I know Dark Souls came out on consoles first, so maybe.
Yeah, or maybe it would just be one with some VFX and stuff stripped down, lower LODs, that sort of thing.
I can see it happening, though. I mean, they're always going to want to make more money off Dark Souls.
This person has a name that is a crime. It's called God Hates Trekkies. How do you feel about Fortnite selling physical copies at retail locations, being that it is A, early access, and B, is scheduled to go free to play next year? Have there been any other games that have done this? Seems super sketchy to me. Physical copies. I know that really bothered Arthur.
Of early access games.
It is a little weird that it doesn't say that on the box. Yeah. Although I don't think on PS4 is it actually listed as early access. I think it's just a game.
I don't remember.
Because PlayStation doesn't have like an early access program. Yeah. So,
does PlayStation just call them betas or something like that? Because I know you can play early games.
Yes, you can launch a game in beta.
Yeah.
But as far as PlayStation's concerned, the moment you're taking money, it is just like you still go through the same tier. Like there isn't like on Xbox where there's like their early access program. You could ship a game with like game breaking bugs and they'll still take it. Whereas when you ship a thing on PlayStation, even in beta, it has to pass cert. You know. So
now I do like. So Fortnite is probably the most polished early access game I've ever played. Like even with its bugs and its UI problems and stuff like that, it feels like it could have been sold as a retail game. It didn't need to be labeled early access. So that's just my opinion on like its overall playability and stability. But if we take a step back and take a higher level view of it. No, I don't really like early access being sold at retail for full price. I think the whole point is, if it's an early access game, the game isn't finished. You're using your community to help fund the development of the game.
Yeah.
So I would be fine with them putting out at retail because a lot of people just, even to this day, a lot of people don't get games online. They get them at retail box copies.
Sure.
So I wouldn't have a problem if it said, early access on the box and said what you were getting into.
Yeah.
Because early access ostensibly means that they can still completely change whatever they want to in the game. Now, at least for a game like Fortnite, they're not going to completely wipe your progress or anything at this point. They're not going to do any of that. But theoretically, an early access game means that you can take those kinds of drastic steps and redesign a game, which means that if I've gone to a store and I've bought a physical boxed copy of something, that copy could be obsolete at some point. I will not have the game that I thought I was buying.
Sure.
So it should be clearly indicated that you are buying something that may not be what you eventually get.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I do see the point to that it's... Especially the fact that it's going to become a free-to-play thing. Like, that's kind of weird in a lot of ways.
That's super weird.
And yeah, I think we talked a little bit about this the previous week, that in some ways it feels like if you're buying early access and stuff, it's usually that you're buying in it cheaper. Like when we talked about when we bought Minecraft, it was $10 and now it's like 20 or $30. So, what did you ask? Nephis X says, "Where do you see the gaming industry going forward in the future, in your opinion?" Just a very small question.
Yeah. I think 16-bit graphics are, gonna make a comeback. I don't know, dude. I still maintain that the inevitable march toward 3D and VR is inevitable. Like, yes, it pops up as a trendy thing and then it goes away, but people want their completely dive into the world experiences. Yeah. And that's just that desire for that kind of thing is never going to go away. So eventually VR and or 3D and or AR are going to be every bit as common as any other kind of gaming, I think.
Yeah, I definitely could see for me VR things that'll be more interesting down the line if it were to continue as a medium and become pervasive enough where most people I knew had it, even if it was on a headset with a phone.
Yeah.
It would be the type of thing where hey, you know how we all used to go to the cabin together and stuff like that? Well, what if tonight, we all live in multiple states, but we're all going to meet up at this time and we're just going to sit around a fire together.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like a virtual fire and it's going to be out in the woods and look really pretty. And we're just going to try and recapture a little bit of that moments we had in our 20s when we just sat around a fire talking for hours.
Right. Everybody roll up a cooler to your lazy boy.
Exactly.
So you can pop some beers.
Put on a space heater pointing at you.
Right.
And we're just gonna sit here and
I'd be super into that. I've for years I've been saying that I want vacation gaming. I want games that like we've said, Endless Ocean and that game where you photographed wildlife in Africa. I want more of those kind of things. I want to travel to other places that are inconvenient for me to travel to, or impossible because it's in a country that hates Americans, or it's I'm just never gonna get permission to actually go to the top of Denali Nature Preserve in Alaska and walk around. Humans are literally not allowed to walk through that part of that park.
Sure.
Without special permission. You have to be a photographer or a filmmaker of some kind. You have to be doing research. The only way that you can get in and out is you have to take a bus to go in, and go on a tour. You can stay overnight. There's some lodges up there and stuff. But you are literally not allowed to just walk through that area of the wilderness. It's that tight of a preserve. It's that delicate of an ecosystem. But imagine if, some VR experience production company got permission to do a whole bunch of shoots there, and then they could share the revenue with the Park Service or whatever to help maintain the Denali Nature Preserve.
Yeah.
And then suddenly everybody gets to go there. That kind of shit just is so appealing.
Something like that, or in my mind as you were telling this, my pie in the sky future thing is what if there was an area where they knew there was crazy amounts of wolf activity, and so they could go out there and set up things so that right now Matt's not here, or Matt's here, it doesn't matter, Matt can watch me. All of a sudden I can just go and virtually place myself there in real time. Mm-hmm. It's what's going on, and I can just be oh, I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh, there happens to be a wolf here. Wow, I can get so close to this wolf in real space. This is fucking so crazy. I'm getting close to this animal, and I know it's actually out there somewhere.
Right.
Kind of blending.
That kind of stuff would be amazing.
That's for me, video games and stuff is totally interesting, but just as a virtual travel simulator. Oh, hey, you know what? Next year, me and my fiance, we're going to go to France. Oh, we're going to go to this place. Well, what does it look like? Oh, that Google Street View thing they have is really rudimentary right now.
Right.
But being able to be okay, and then we'll go on this route and blah, 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 and we can see it in real time and be oh, that shop looks really cute. We should stop by there.
Man, that'd be great. And they already have cameras. I'm blanking on it right now, but they already have cameras that when you point it in a direction, it also records 3-dimensional data. And so if you had if you had an array of those in a place, and you could do basically the equivalent of the Google Street View van driving around, even if it was as rudimentary as Street View, but was in VR, that'd still be incredible.
Yeah, it would. Another walker, going back to our early conversation about Fortnite, says, "Do you consider the language 'early access' in quotes something that your typical non-gamer consumer would understand?"
Yeah, no, I don't think so. That's
yeah,
a really good
I don't
point.
think so either. I don't even know if they'd understand beta. You know,
they might understand beta. That's a much more common term.
You think so?
Yeah. And, I think when people say something is in beta, they generally know what that means. Now, if you're a non-tech person at all and you don't download apps, you don't spend any time on the computer, you don't really spend much time with software, then no, even beta is not going to do it. It's tough, man. Like, I don't know how you really communicate that kind of thing to somebody who's a non-gamer in a retail space where you have basically 30 seconds to educate somebody.
Yeah, I feel like it would almost need some gigantic sticker that took up like half of the box art.
Yeah.
And would be like, this is warning, purchasing, like, and would have to be like literally like a warning sticker, and then they would have to look at it like, I don't know. And even then...
Yeah. Even then...
I'm sure this will come up at some point, though. Someone's going to get sued, and then the FCC or someone will dictate, like, what is the legal amount of stuff required to pass muster.
Or, the industry will come up with some sort of self-policing thing so they can avoid actual government regulation, just like the ESRB.
Wallace says that the Xbox calls it game preview, which he thinks makes more sense. But game preview almost makes it sound like I'm not getting... Well,
sounds like a demo in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sounds like you're buying a demo.
And I will say that the nice thing about the Xbox game demos is you can play it for a couple hours, and if you were like, this was a mistake, you can just return it.
Yeah.
So,
Nephis X says, how come they haven't made an app on PS4 or Xbox One where you could watch movies or Netflix together? They had that for the Xbox 360 where you were in like a theater and your avatar was looking at a movie screen. And I thought that was so awesome.
Yep.
Like, I can't believe they stopped doing that. And I'm right there with you, Nephis_X. Like, that kind of shit just seems super obvious to me. Where it's like, I have to pay for my own Xbox account. You have to pay for your own Xbox account. We both have to pay for our own Netflix accounts. And then what it happens is, like, we're in an Xbox Live party, says, Anthony wants to watch this movie with you. Great. And then, bloop, we watch it up. It starts the movies at the same time. So we're like, within maybe a second or two of each other's. Hopefully we can stream at the same time. And that would be great. I would love it so much. I would watch so many movies with people that way.
I never really understood what happened to that.
Me either.
Like, if it was a rights thing or what the hell happened. But yeah, it ended up getting taken down.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, that's the kind of stuff where, again, future of gaming, future of VR just makes so much sense. Because even right when VR first started to come out, everybody was like, man, I just want to sit in a virtual movie theater and watch movies on a quote-unquote giant screen and be able to turn to my right and see my buddy Anthony's avatar there watching it with me.
Hike77, why doesn't Netflix just do that through the app? It used to. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And maybe someone out there smarter than me, we'll get Patrick Klepek on the case.
Right.
Can tell us, like, what the hell ever happened to that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how much it was used.
Right.
But it was a feature that existed at one point.
Yeah. And I mean, that was you got to remember the Xbox 360 days, and all of their online features were super avant-garde when they were first doing it. I mean, like, it could have just been as simple as like, not enough people are using it, let's not spend the money on it. But now, like, I feel like that would be a killer app feature for Netflix.
SME11 says there's a Chrome extension that syncs Netflix sessions. So he video chats and watches TV with his sister once a week. So I guess someone's doing it through like Chrome extensions, but it's not like an officially supported.
Yeah. That's cool. I didn't know about that extension though. That's pretty great.
All right. We're going to take a question from... This is a follow-up.
Emails?
To an email from last week.
Oh, hey, I recognize that guy's name.
Yeah, this is the guy, his name, we said his name was like...
Thijis.
Yes.
And so the subject of his email is... Thijis, what's it mean?
Says, thank you for answering my game-making question so completely. You also asked about my name. I'm 38 and was born and raised in upstate New York. I now live in Arizona. My name is unique. Arizona, and with that name, we will find you. The short answer is that it sounds like Regis with a T.
Tegis. Oh, okay.
And he says, I'll leave a longer explanation for you below. He says, my question, he says off air for you to read, but I'm just going to read it in the show. He says, I'm named after Tejas van Leer, a Dutch musician. My father really liked the name but didn't know how to say it. He thought it was Tej, and actually said Ties, Tice, like dice with a T. It's short for Mathis, which is another form of Matthew.
Yeah.
So he thought it sounded better to add the second I, hence Tejas.
Hence Tejas. That's pretty good.
All right.
Wow, you do have a very, very unique name, Tejas. Great. Hold on to that.
His question of the week is about the similarities with gambling and loot boxes. Do you think people got loot boxes on the brain?
Yeah.
Do you think loot boxes are too close to gambling? Will we ever get the loot box drop rate numbers? Remember the China law where they actually have to expose it. Certain people with addictive personalities have spent ridiculous amounts of money on these. I personally know someone who almost got divorced because he would not stop buying packages and apps.
Wow. I mean, there is very clearly a direct relationship between gambling and loot boxing. I mean, no doubt about it.
And people like that, I mean, there's even a term for them, right? Like, developers call them whales. They literally use that term all the time. Oh, man, well, how do we get the whales to continue to buy in?
Right,
because you're basic...
And, we're really coming close to not just moral gray areas, but morally reprehensible areas where it's like people can directly design their games so that they can suck in the most amount of vulnerable people possible.
I mean, free-to-play companies and stuff like that, I work for one, so we don't, but a lot of them have psychologists on board and stuff too, because they're literally thinking, how can we tap into that, just one more hit type mentality.
Yep.
And, Wallace says, I'm waiting for the government to shut them down. I don't know that it'll ever get shut down, because it's not gambling. You literally are getting, it's different from gambling in the sense that gambling, you have the chance to walk away with nothing.
Right.
And in this, they can walk away with something that they can say is worth something.
True. But I mean, in another sense, it's exactly the same as gambling, except that, there's no law like the China law, which says that you have to tell the drop rates. But in a gambling casino, all the odds are supposed to be publicly available information.
True.
And the casinos are not supposed to do anything to mess with those odds. They can do things where they can be like, all right, here's this blackjack has 5 decks instead of 1 or 2 decks to keep people from counting cards. But you would know, if you were mathematically inclined enough, that 5 decks means that, I have roughly this amount of odds to get X or Y hands, based off how many cards I think are left, all that kind of stuff. So, it's I do think it actually should come about at some point that
will at least expose percentages.
That'll expose percentages. So it should be all right, if I'm going to go and pay $10 for this in-game currency, I'm going to get 8 loot boxes. What's the percentage chance that one of those 8 is going to be a high-level loot box? I think we should get to know that.
I mean, maybe China will be on the cutting edge when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And I mean, they are, as far as for America, for as much as you hear about us being a very protectionist country with our people and stuff, when it comes to games, man, China's way more about that. In China, you have to expose chances. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it might be China. I know you do in Korea. You have to have regular messages that pop up that are you should take a break, and stuff like that, to make sure that people aren't going to basically murder themselves playing video games.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it is loot boxes. They obviously work. And for free-to-play companies, it's a good source of monetization.
Yeah.
I think it's all about trying to be responsible enough to make the things in it worth it, too. I don't know.
Yep.
It's a tough place for me as a developer who works on a game that has loot boxes. I don't necessarily have a problem.
Sorry about all the chair squeaking. I'm trying to adjust the cat in my lap.
I don't necessarily have a problem with them as long as they're done right.
Yes.
So
I agree. And
what that means is open to interpretation, I guess.
Sure, but I think it's exactly like what we said before, and that it needs to be so that you don't have to buy loot boxes, that you can play the game and you can get whatever currency you need to get the loot boxes without having to pay money, or and also I think people have started to fudge the pay-to-win thing a lot. You know, like it used to be that games would come out and they say, you know, we're going to have all these free-to-play elements, but they're going to be cosmetic only. They won't change the gameplay at all. We're not going to do guns. We're not going to do armor. We're not going to do anything that's going to give you a specific gameplay. She's like, no, I'm not letting go.
I think she wants to get down, but okay. If the cat wants to get down, I like to put her down because she's so old now.
Yeah.
That I don't want her to jump.
Did you want to get down, Pee-Pee?
I feel like she does.
Yep. You want to get down? There you go. Yep. She made it.
She's just got old cat lady hips. She's 14 now.
Yep. Our cat is 17. She's starting to feel the same thing. But yeah, man, it's. I think people are starting to do a lot more. They started to ease into more pay to win, where it's like, you know, in Fortnite, for example, you actually do get better guns from loot boxes. Like, there's no ability to just craft a gun out of nothing.
It's become more acceptable in games where there's no PvP element.
Right.
Like Warframe, there's the ability to get the regular version of the Warframe, or there's the Prime version of that same Warframe that is like obviously better, but you pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I'm finding it like it's where multiplayer comes in, where it's like you really do have to stick yourself to just cosmetics. But you know, anyway, lots of stuff about loot boxes. It's a complicated subject, and you know, it's. We're in an ever-changing industry, and this is a relatively recent construction. I wouldn't say it's like super recent, but it's definitely recent how widespread it's become as a money-making mechanic and everybody wanting their piece of the pie. I did play a game, though, that is the exact opposite of this. And no loot boxes, no multiplayer, no nothing.
Yeah, I think you're going to hit up on Bruce Wayne Brady's question.
Yeah. Oh, what did he say?
He said, Cliffy B was part of a panel about the cost of making games at PAX South last year. Do you think that games like Hellblade and Lawbreakers might do well because they're $30 retail? Also, do either of you have any interest in those games?
Well, considering that I was up until 3 a.m. last night finishing Hellblade, I definitely have an interest in that game. I started at 9 p.m., and I was like, I'm going to play this for 2 or 3 hours and then go to bed. And then I just couldn't stop playing. It was so goddamn good. It is, I think... for what it costs, it is a $30 game. It is worth every single penny of that $30. That is one of the greatest gaming experiences of my life. That is no exaggeration. It is absolutely the most intense gaming experience I have ever had. It triggered all kinds of crazy thoughts in my mind about like what it means to have an interactive experience with another piece of art. The ability for people to communicate an experience that's outside of your purview through interactive entertainment. And I felt things in place of this character in a way that I don't think I ever have in a video game before.
That's a box quote right there.
It's like it was so well done. And a lot of it comes down to all of the standard stuff that you think about games. You know, it's like the way the game controls, the way it looks, the way it feels, all that kind of stuff. But where it really drives it home is the audio design. Because for those of you who don't know about this game, it's called Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, and the titular character Senua, she is on a quest to basically try to save the soul of her dead lover. Or at least that's what she thinks she's doing. It's never really clear if that actually is what she's doing, because she also suffers from psychosis. And they say that right at the beginning of the game. It's like, this character suffers from psychosis. And that they had people who actually suffer from psychosis, as well as medical advisors, to consult on the development of this game so that they can get it right. And there's a warning at the beginning of the game that it's like, this may be too intense for you if you actually do suffer from psychosis. Because what it does, and it says you should play this game with headphones, and you absolutely should. Don't play this game with speakers. Play it with headphones.
Now I know why you were talking to my fiance if we had headphone splitters.
Right.
I was like,
talking about this game.
I was like, we can just watch on the TV. Why do we need headphones?
Yeah, no. You need headphones because the voices in her head that are talking to her, and they talk to you throughout the whole game. It never stops. There's got to be like 30 or 40,000 lines of spoken dialogue just like with those characters, and they speak. Somebody is, back behind your left ear talking over here. The other voice is talking over here. There's another one right here, and they're always in the same spot in your head. So you start to recognize this voice
from directional audio.
And then, at certain points of the game, other voices are introduced into like her pantheon of stuff that's talking to her. And then she always sounds like she's talking, out in front of you, like when she's talking back to them. And but you don't know about the times when, like, because sometimes when she's talking, I went around to the front of the character and her mouth wasn't moving. And I'm like, is that just because they didn't animate it, or is it because she's actually talking inside her head? And she's dealing with, because it takes place in a time period around, when the Norwegians are invading Great Britain and the Celtic tribes are trying to fight them off and stuff. So, it's like it looks like it's probably somewhere, during probably early Roman times when they were in the south of England but hadn't progressed north yet. And it's that early on time period. And you can imagine that somebody who is suffering psychosis is treated as though she's
they're
cursed.
Probably like a witch or something.
Right,
yeah,
she's treated like she's cursed, and she has this darkness inside of her. And so the darkness theme is very real in the sense that, like, that it'll do these incredible things where she'll walk into an area and everything starts to like bleed darkness, and then she ends up in the darkness, and like her breathing gets super intense. And like she starts to have this panic sound in her voice, and then there are times when she thinks she's being injured, she thinks she's on fire, or maybe she actually is. And I've never heard a voice actor scream like this before. It's not the kind of thing where it's like, oh, ow, and they scream, and like you can feel like, okay, this is a Hollywood version of somebody in pain.
Sure, someone in a booth doing a fake, yeah.
It feels like somebody in pain, and it doesn't quite feel like somebody in pain, or it feels like a Hollywood version of it. In this one, her reactions and her descents into her psychosis and her coming back out of it, and the times where she is dying, are so believable, and the audio is so profound. It's that kind of thing when you see a news report and there's been some tragedy and there's somebody there who is just like, their face is like just exploding with tears and grief, and they're wailing to the skies and that kind of thing. The kind of stuff that like you just can't really watch because it's so disturbing.
Yeah.
Her audio and her voice acting is like that. And it's like you're completely awash in this character's experience in a way I've never been awash in another character's experience, especially in video games, but especially in any other media.
Yeah, I think the only time I've ever gotten close to that in a video game was actually from the original Brothers in Arms game.
Oh, yeah.
And it was an early Troy Baker performance, and there's like one level in that game where you play through and you meet up with your best friend from high school in the war, and then he dies at the very end. And each level starts off with a monologue on a black screen, and it's just him monologuing. And he's like trying to write something, and then he just like starts swearing and saying "fuck," and it was just like, it probably, I don't even know if it holds up now, but at the time it was that same sort of thing where I was like, oh man, that was like intense. Like totally like, yeah, especially because I was playing a game where I'm just I'm shooting Nazis, haha, and then it was like the first time I had ever played a game maybe where I was like, this character actually had a real reaction to someone dying. Right. So
and you actually felt it.
Yeah, I'll be curious to. Well, now that I know that about the positional audio, I'm gonna have to set up for this game.
Yep, you do. It's so good. The last thing I'll say about it, real quick, is that I don't mean to imply that like she is a victim throughout this whole thing, because she's not. She is a warrior. She is, constantly facing battles, internal and external, and sometimes you don't know which is which.
Yeah.
And she overcomes them every time but there are definitely a lot of close calls there.
Sure.
But it just makes her a stronger character in the end. And that brings me a little bit to the combat. The combat's a lot of fun. It feels like kind of a cross between Heavenly Sword and Dark Souls. And it's like, if you commit to the wrong action at the wrong time, the enemies will definitely destroy you.
Yeah.
But unlike Dark Souls, you can actually cancel a move, and you'll hear some. And because the camera is positioned really close up to her shoulder, you can't see behind you at all. And I'm sure that's intentional. But you can still get attacked from off camera. But you'll hear a voice that'll say like, "He's behind you, move," or like, "He's attacking, get out of there." And it's really, really helpful, because then you're like, all right, I'm dodging, I'm getting out of the way.
I wish the voices in my head would be so helpful.
Yeah. Anyway, if you go out and buy it, it'll be some of the best $30 you've ever spent.
All right. Well, that's pretty much the best pitch I could have gotten. I mean, I was already interested in it because it's Ninja Theory.
Ninja Theory, yeah.
So who made
Ninja Blade.
Enslaved.
Yep.
Journey to the West. Heavenly Sword.
Yeah.
And
not Ninja Blade, yeah.
They also DMC, the newest DMC.
DMC, yeah.
They've done good work.
Yes.
And it's actually, I hope this game pays off for them, because this was like their big, like, we're going to self-publish this thing. And they've been, you probably didn't know, because I don't think anybody but a very passionate fan base really paid attention, that they haven't been doing the typical press route of hitting up all the outlets.
No.
But what they have done is, for the last 2 years, they've put up like every step of the process of making the game on their website.
Wow, I didn't
They've
know
done
that.
Twitch streams of making the game, like through all the things. They've put up videos showing acting and stuff like that,
nice.
and how they achieve the graphics they achieve and stuff. Very detailed stuff.
It does, like any of the other Ninja Theory games, the acting is incredible, and the characters and the animations are also incredible. Like, in fact, the one-word review of this game should just be incredible.
Johnny Mattis says, "Whatever happened to Star Citizen? Is that what it's called?" Question mark. In 2013, I did an interview with Chris Roberts about his upcoming Kickstarter for a game called Star Citizen, and I was so blown away and blown away by what he showed, that I wrote a gushing preview, and I saw a tech demo of it running. He was actually flying a ship around, and I was so blown away by the promise of it that I put in $150 into it.
Didn't you buy some ships since?
Yeah, I bought one ship, $150 for one ship.
Wow!
And
so you paid $300 so far?
Just once,
right.
just one time, $150, $150 one time.
Oh, I thought you backed it for $150 and then bought it.
No,
ship.
yeah,
oh, okay.
Just the one time. Almost took a job there as a community manager. Was super into it, and then nothing, right, for a long period of time. But since then, I know that there's dogfighting you can do now. But man, that is a game that every time they talk about, I get the little broadcast things out to my email and stuff.
Yeah.
Every time they talk about some new feature and stuff, I'm just like, I don't know if this game's ever going to come out. So
well, because every time I get one of those things, and because I get those same emails, and they say, come watch our new live stream, this coming week, and I watch it, and I'm like, man, these are such the minutia little features that they and they'll do an entire hour's live stream on these two new features that they added, and these two little lighting things that they changed, and that's great. They're clearly doing work, and they're doing good work, but it just reminds you how slowly a game comes together, and the bigger a game is, the more slowly it comes together, and this is supposed to be a fucking big game. So on the one hand, I'm like, whatever happened to it? Why doesn't this game actually happen? Why aren't they spending their money to just build things quicker? But on the other hand, I'm like, they have so much money. Why don't they just take their time and do everything right and get it done and get it out there? Because at this point, if they release something early and it's a buggy, broken mess, it'll be one of the biggest boondoggles in history, and I bet they feel that all the time.
I think it's smart that they've been doing it in their module system the way they do, where they're like, this is the dogfighting module, which means separate EXE basically, and so they're slowly introducing those things and figuring out how they're going to do it. Yeah, PC Gamer recently did an article write-up about what insurance is going to look like in that game. That's pretty interesting. You should look at that, because it's going to be a very exploitable thing, I think. So unless they, and, well, they have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, I think they even posed a question in it, and they were like, "Oh, we don't actually know how to answer that yet." So it's like, you know, there's still a lot of questions for them. I think right now they're probably
because if your ship blows up, it blows up.
It blows up. If you're a backer, though, before the game comes out, you have lifetime insurance, so you can get it back for like a very small fee. That's like basically nothing to you.
Like real money fee or
no,
in-game
fee.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And or time.
Oh, okay.
Time could pass. But if you're someone that ends up playing the game basically for free, and because I think there's going to be like a free option, then you would have a much longer to wait time and a much higher pay rate based on your insurance.
Wow.
So. But they were talking about ways that players could exploit it, because when you literally file a claim with insurance when it blows up, and stuff like that. And so they were talking about, well, then why couldn't I just tell my friend, steal my ship, and I'm going to make a claim for my insurance, and then you have this ship and I'll get my ship back.
Insurance fraud, man.
Yes, literally insurance fraud. So
I mean, hey, if you want to have like the most realistic space simulating universe ever, then maybe you just let people commit fraud.
Yeah.
And you have to try to track them down.
Bone Chan says, "Yo, Rebel Bros, when's the next skateboarding game?" I have no clue.
Dude, I would love another Skate. I mean, I would still love another Tony Hawk, but like I would also love another Skate. Those games are so good.
Those games got made backwards compatible. One of them recently.
They did, yeah. I don't remember which one.
That might be the best you're gonna get, honestly. Probably. At least until the only way I could see a really cool skateboarding game being made is if some indie dev takes it on.
Yeah.
And they're like, look, we're gonna launch this early access skate game, and we're gonna develop it over time into like this really crazy robust thing. Like,
that would be great.
I could see that, but
I would love it.
EA and stuff like that, I bet you they've largely washed their hands of it just from trying it.
Yeah, I can believe that too.
And the fact that the last Tony Hawk game failed so bad, like, not that that's fair because it wasn't that great of a game, but other people looking to say, like, skateboarding interesting games, they'd be like, nah. So,
Yep.
Let's see. Scrolling down. Looking for questions. There was a lot. I'm scrolling down now, just catching up with chat.
Yeah.
Nayu1578 says, "Now I know it's only a rumor, but if it's true, and we get Bully 2, Game Club maybe?"
That would be great.
If there was a game that would be worth going back, it might be that. Also, that new Cthulhu game might be interesting to look at for a Game Club.
Because we did the old one.
Yes. Yeah. And it actually does. The new Cthulhu game is being made by, I forget who, but it's a developer that I was like actually interested in. So
yeah, we're gonna do if we were gonna do a game club, that would be a good one to do it on. It's been a long time since we've done a game club. If you and the good thing about game clubs is that they're kind of evergreen, because they're on games that have been out or going to be out, and we play through the whole thing. So we don't have to like. The thing that I loved about doing Game Club, that I would love to still do about Game Club if we were able to do it, was that we can talk about everything. Spoilers, you don't have to worry about spoilers, like people are ostensibly playing the game along with you. It makes a lot of fun. We would take we'd be like, okay, for next week we're going to play through Chapter 5. So play through Chapter 5 and send us your questions and comments, and we'll talk about it again. That would be great.
Yeah. I mean, the Game Club thing was always really cool. There was always the occasional times though with work and stuff where all of a sudden you'd be like, oh my god, it's tomorrow and I haven't played any of it, so now I have to you had to cram like it was a class or something like that.
Yeah, that's what made it difficult, is that all of us just had far too busy lives.
Cyanide, Bentel Giant. Yeah, Cyanide is the developer, and they've done really cool stuff. That's I think they're the studio that have done like all of the Styx games. Yeah,
those are good.
Yeah, so that's like why they're a little rough on the edges, but still cool. And so the fact that they're going to do like a Cthulhu adventure game, actually,
that'd be cool.
Really interests me.
Yeah, they have good writers over there, so I could see that happening. Nice. Right on.
Yeah. It's just to catch everyone up who's watching on Twitch, and this will be weird for people listening to the podcast, but yes, this is a live Rebel FM. We're doing a live Rebel FM this week because the rest of the guys are at the International, getting all of the Dota that they can stand, and that way they'll never talk about it again
on the podcast.
We will never hear about Dota ever again.
That is the last time anybody will ever talk about Dota. I think that's fine.
Let's see. And speaking of the Dota replacement, question comes from Robert Moore.
What? Robert Moore?
Yeah, the Robert Moore. And he says, I only have a PS4, so I've only been experiencing Battlegrounds through Anthony. First nonstop on the podcast and more recently on Twitch. I'm wondering how you think it will translate to console. There do seem to be a lot of different actions in the game, and it seems quite well suited to keyboard and mouse. I'm sure the main controls will work themselves out fine, but I am more curious how you think the inventory system will function. For a game with a ticking clock, I would hate to be stuck on that screen for too long. Have any of you tried a controller with it on PC? Is there anything else that you think would be a challenge for them making a console version? Any rumors on a PS4 version, Rob, in Ireland? I think that it's inevitable a PS4 version will happen. They said exclusively to Xbox, but I bet you that's timed exclusive language. Yeah. Like almost certainly. Yeah. I think the UI will look way different, but I think it'll mostly be like you'll probably it probably won't be that different. You'll have the bars of stuff. You'll flick a thing down and you'll hit A to equip, or you'll move real quick over to the gun and say unequip. Yeah. Like it'll be a little more clumsy and take a little bit longer, but I think the way that if you're playing with just other console people, maybe that won't be so bad because everyone would be at that sort of a disadvantage.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, what makes it kind of work in the UI the way that it is already is if you can always go into your inventory and see what's on the ground. And if you just highlight over something, you can just automatically equip it from the ground to your gun.
Right.
And if you pick up a gun, they're automatically equipped in their slots.
That's actually a good point. Yeah, it might just be like press A to pick up, press and hold A to auto-equip to primary. Right. And maybe it auto-equips to you could probably design around it. Hold A to auto-equip to primary 1, hold X to auto-equip to primary 2. Yeah, something like that. There will probably be press and hold options.
Because you can only hold 3 guns at once. So it makes it pretty straightforward. And the fact that, so many of the attachments are gun type or sometimes specific gun dependent means that if I'm only equipping one AR and I want that, when I want a 3x scope or whatever on my AR or an AR stock or whatever, that's only going to equip to that one gun in my inventory, so I might as well just pop it over.
Yeah, Bental Giant needs to be able to lock a slot to prevent accidentally switching something you don't want to switch. Yeah, I feel like you would have to be wherever you're switching is whatever your primary weapon is. So
right.
Right now in that game they don't have they do have an unarmed state, but you have to hit X to get to it. But I feel like it would have to be I hit Y to switch between my 2 primary guns, and then maybe press and hold Y to switch to my pistol, and then whichever one I'm on, if I'm on my empty hands, that's what I'm going to equip. If I'm on my M16, I know I'm going to drop my M16 for it. Right. There will be a lot of user experience things. That's the main hurdles they have to get over, obviously.
But I think what makes this game, what's going to make it work with console controls over other heavy inventory games is the fact that your slots and your guns, the way that they auto equipped, and that the attachments are for different weapons. I think that makes it easier rather than harder to manage inventory.
Yeah. I don't think it'll look that different ultimately though. I don't think they're going to make it that custom of a UI or anything like that.
There's no reason. They don't need a weapon wheel or anything like that, except maybe for grenades.
But yeah, I haven't tried
grenades would be a tough one.
That's true. Yeah, and I haven't tried it. Oh, yeah, maybe radials would actually work. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it at all with the controller. I know they did put in controller support, much more robust one recently.
Yeah.
But it's just such a mouse and keyboard game to me right now. That I'm
I know.
But that being said, I pretty much only use WASD, Z to prone, C to crouch, spacebar to jump, and F to do all my interactions.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm not one of those people that has yet to... you always see people that are I remap all my controls, and I just go by defaults.
No, me too.
That's just because I get used to that.
Yep, me too. God Hates Trekkies says it does say exclusive launch on Xbox.
Exclusive launch.
Yeah, so it's definitely coming to PS4, yeah.
Wallace6969, I got tired of hearing about Dota 5 years ago. Well, you're definitely going to hear about a lot more Dota because they are going to the International and they're going to talk about it.
Yep, they'll come back and talk about it. I mean, I, as a non-Dota player, I still like the International, and I like hearing about the International. It's, it's one of the biggest events in gaming to happen every year, and it's really impressive to watch it. Even if you've only played a handful of Dota games like me, it's still really impressive to watch people at the top of their game do things well, no matter what it is.
Lethal Placebo. Sorry to be that guy, but do you think they'll target 60 FPS on Xbox? I'm sure that's maybe a target because, like, I guess high-end PCs can run 60 FPS. But I bet you even just getting it running on 30 with that many people will probably be fine. Yeah. You know?
I mean, like, dude, it seems like the kind of game, if the engine is optimized enough, and I guarantee you Microsoft is throwing money at them so that it runs well on Xbox. That's why it's exclusive launch. That on the I could see it running at 60 on the on Scorpio.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe I'll definitely try it on console. I don't think it'll ever become my primary platform, but I am curious to see if they're able to overcome how well they're. I guess anyone could do it, but I feel like how well they're able to do it in the time given.
Yeah.
Gary the Third, what do you guys think of those new Star Wars photos? Did you look at those?
No,
I did. It's just you know, Entertainment Weekly always has the like scenes from. I mean, and they're totally like non-critical things. Obviously, you know, like it's a picture of Carrie Fisher, it's a picture of Chewbacca. Obviously, there's like one picture of one of those. What are those things called? Like Corbs or something like that. Basically, they're.
What are those?
Someone else will know what it is.
I have no idea what that is. Let's look it up. We have the technology.
Jeez, I can't remember what they're actually called. Johnny
Mattis says, I watch it every year. I put it on the Jumbotron at my office and the employees think I'm nuts. Hashtag Dota FM. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like I put it on at home a lot and my wife watches it with me even though both of us don't know a lot about what's going on. It's still entertaining enough for us to watch.
There you go. They're called porgs. And look at that fucking thing, man.
What?
A porg is basically...
They were like, Ewoks aren't cute enough. Let's make one of these.
Like, they're basically force-sensitive, furry... They're like penguins, but instead of beaks and stuff, they gave them like a really adorable little... like gerbil face.
Yeah, but they totally look like Nibbler. You know, like they're gonna be this cute little adorable animal that will swallow you whole.
But yeah, so they basically showed that, and they showed this alien, which looks like something out of Labyrinth, which is like for you people who are listening, it looks almost like if someone was like, "We're gonna make a dinosaur person" or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the porgs are super cute. I feel like when I see that, that's like someone's concept that they were like, "Oh yeah, well how many millions of dollars would you wish to make
in toys?
Because we will make this into toys." And according to Gary Third, he says they clean statues. So maybe they're sentient. I don't know. But there's a picture of one with fucking Chewbacca on the Millennium Falcon. Right. So now they're going to turn into some adorable comic relief, God. I bet.
Yep,
until they kill one or something like that. And it'll be like a really cheap but highly effective heartstring moment.
Seriously. Wallace6969 says, I watched League of Legends once. I understood absolutely nothing. Yeah, that's the thing about those games is that, and one of the things that I actually really like about the International is they always have the newbie commentators that go through and explain everything in detail. Yes, there's the
separate stream for the newbie people, yeah. Yep.
But it's the same video, it's just different casters explaining things to you like a dunce. So that's helpful.
Yeah, let's see. So, yeah, Matt, sorry, if you were just watching the stream, you saw Matt get distracted. It's my cat's auto feeder going off. Yeah. I know, it's actually pretty loud when you're in here.
What the hell is
occasionally I've spent the night out here, and then when it goes off, I'm like, oh. Let's see. Steam Spy, according to Texas Airhead, Steam Spy says Pub is at 6.555 million owners. Last game that had that sort of momentum. Minecraft.
Yeah.
Minecraft, when I was at IGN, was always like, didn't we just write an article that said that game has now sold 3 million copies? And then it would be like 6 months or like 6 weeks later, we'd be like, now it's at 4 million? Like,
yeah.
So.
And didn't Rust hit like 1.1 or something like that?
Yeah, Rust went and then it kind of plateaued.
Yeah.
I mean, it plateaued with several million units. But,
yeah.
But yeah, like this one, the difference was that I feel like Rust was not as watchable of a game on Twitch.
No.
Like, because Rust, like, Battlegrounds still has the, quote, boring part of looting early on.
Right.
Where there's usually some fighting. But Rust is, like, you didn't really want to watch someone build a base in first person for a long period of time. Battlegrounds is a lot more action oriented on that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, and the the funny thing, the jankiness of PUB, I think has actually helped it on Twitch because of like the outrageous shit that can happen.
Oh yeah,
it's just because it's a janky engine.
I mean,
it does janky stuff.
That person I'm spacing on their like user handle now. But the person that does those weekly This Week in Pub video, week 14 videos, half of the reason they're so fun to watch on top is the editing, and then the other half is like, or I should say, half is the editing, a quarter of it is skill, and a quarter of it is jank.
Yeah.
Because it's like 2 cars hit, and then everyone's laughing because they go launching like a half mile in the air. Like,
well, it's like, before Rebel FM, we've trailed off doing this, but for a very long time before every Rebel FM, we'd catch up on Dota what the fuck videos. And it was the same kind of thing where it
Dear
was like,
Someone is the name of the person, sorry. Dear Someone. Yeah.
Yes. Where it was like half of those Dota what the fuck videos were like, exactly the same thing. They were jank from buggy engine, skill shots, and just really funny stuff that happened in the normal course of games. So smart. It's a good way to do it. It's very visible.
X42X says, King of the Kill is so done. Damn. Another checkmate for Daybreak after the end of EverQuest. Next in the struggle with H1Z1. I don't see that studio is going to exist for a long time. I will say that H1Z1 still, if you look up on Steam Spy, it's one of the top played games still.
Yeah.
So it still has like a dedicated fan base of like millions of people. I don't know. I wouldn't count it out in the same way that it's kind of like I wouldn't count Dota 2 out because League of Legends exists. And I know that seems like a weird comparison because Dota 2 is like incredibly popular. But that's the thing about H1Z1. It's also very popular.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like it because the public conversation and that Battlegrounds has that many more players. But if you were to compare like League and Dota players, it would make it seem like in that same sort of ratio that Dota is not like Dota, poor Valve, But
yeah,
I'm sure.
right.
I'm guessing that Daybreak still makes plenty of money.
Yeah.
On H1 on that game, so
I
don't think they're like in jeopardy or anything like that.
No, exactly.
Being number 2 is not always a bad thing if you're like a solid ass number 2.
Yep.
I mean, even the guys that used to make Heroes of New Earth, which was a distant number 3 in the MOBA space, they still used to do very well for themselves.
Yeah.
Being that way.
And any of the MOBAs that are frequently up there at the top of Twitch, they're all doing just fine.
Yeah.
So,
X42X says, what is the situation of PlanetSide 2? I tried the PS4 version. It is okay, but did not set the world on fire.
Still a ton of people playing it.
Yeah.
Still a very active community.
PlanetSide 2, I think part of it was that it took so long to come out on PS4. They announced it like, I want to say like 2012 or something like that.
Yeah,
like
I remember going to a
PlayStation 4
even
came out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just took forever.
Yeah.
And
it's that game is a ton of fun. Like, I don't want to disparage it at all. But my big beef with it is how slow the progression is. It takes so long to unlock anything in that game. So on the flip side of that, the people that have the highest certs and are able to drive the best vehicles and have the best guns and everything like that, you look at them and you're like, oh damn, I'm gonna follow that guy into battle. So it does create this sort of tiered system where you have the elites and then all of the scrubs like me, which try to follow them around and use them as a shield essentially.
Another Walker says, I got a question I've been meaning to ask. What is your guys' take on role players on GTA Online? It's like a video game soap opera with actors and streamers all following different people's characters.
I've watched it. I've loved it. It's great. It's so good.
Yeah, I've watched some Sheriff Eli.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because,
Thadrius.
Yeah, one of the things they have to overcome in that is that they only allow like 24 people on a server or something like that. So it seems like it would be kind of uneventful or something like that, but they're really wise about the 24 people they let on are very dedicated to the world and playing certain roles.
Yep.
That it creates really interesting things go down, like right down to the fact that like with Sheriff Eli, his deputies and stuff like that all like take it very seriously too, and so you start seeing the rapports between people. Like it really does take like, I guess that sort of role-playing game creates a very unique and watchable Twitch experience.
It does.
That is, like, so unique to the live streaming world.
Yep.
You know, like,
stuff is always happening.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I would, like, watching it on YouTube and stuff would be interesting, but it's like, especially with Sheriff Eli, it's kind of like that same sort of cheap drama of watching the old Cops TV show. Because you're like, oh, shit, is something going to happen? How's he going to handle this? Oh, man, he was a really nice guy. He just talked those guys out of, like, that crime and, you know, realized that they... You know, he even has that moment where he's like, they're just, you know, a couple of chuckleheads trying to do the right thing, you know, but they just got mixed up in the wrong stuff. You know, and you're just like, wow. Like, it's so real. You know?
I love the Twitch RP stuff. There's, like, in the people that I follow list, like, several of them are, like, regular role players in games like... Ark and GTA, and they even did like a Conan thing once, and they a lot of the Twitch RPers that I watch anyway, it seems like they all kind of know each other and they'll all join the same game at the same time to just do this thing, or they casually know each other, you know, and it is a lot of fun to watch. Like there's this one that I watched where this guy, I'm blanking on his streamer name, but he's a professional voice actor, so he does really good characters and really good character-driven stuff. There was this one guy who insisted on being his like his apprentice, or you know, like his what's the assistant to a knight called?
His squire.
His squire, you know, but his squire was always obsessed with feet. So, like, occasionally, like, two people would be interacting and, like, role-playing, and suddenly the squire would just, like, get on his belly, and nobody would be paying attention, and then all of a sudden you hear this... They go, God damn it, I told you to stop getting on my... And, like, it was so perfect because he'd always, like, he'd go just outside of the camera where nobody could see him and, like, get on his belly, and then, like, just creep into the scene, and everybody was, like... You know, it's this shared illusion for all of our entertainment, and it's so effective. It's great. It's like it's just improv theater for like 3 hours at a time. You know.
Yeah, and that's just it. I think part of the reason you watch it too is because just like improv, there can be totally cringeworthy moments.
Yeah.
And then and especially because you have the unpredictableness of a game engine going on, it creates really hilarious things. Like again, Sheriff Eli. One of the things that's funny is he's always having to continue to role play even when like. The AI starts doing crazy shit, you know, like all of a sudden, like one of them goes and just gets a little, like its pathfinding gets messed up and they ramp their car off something. And or like one time I saw like a car get flipped up in the air and like explode and he's like, oh, wizards, you know, it's just like, but just like things like that create really interesting moments that I think are very of unique.
Yeah, that's great. I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it scrolled off the page now, so I can't remember who said it, but like I think that stuff is great. And I think it's completely unique to our era and to the availability of the consumer availability of Twitch streaming. So there you go.
Flamov says, what older games had sub-games in them created completely by the players, either through mods, maps, etc., or without sub-games in them created by the players?
So like, I think he is talking about like GTA. You know, before there was Cops and Robbers in GTA, people totally did in multiplayer GTA. People totally had Cops and Robbers servers.
Yeah, Battlegrounds.
Like
I mean, Battlegrounds literally was just an Arma mod.
Yeah. That
people were making, or that PlayerUnknown was making.
Yeah. Well, so. I mean, it's like, and I think he also might be talking about. My friends and I would play Counter-Strike a ton back in the day, and like people would suddenly agree just on. They'd be like, hey, knives only. Knives only
was one of my favorite things. Yeah.
Or pistols only, and people would just agree to it. And then like, it was there were a couple games where I was like, hey, all the terrorists, pistols, and all of the pistols only, and the counter-terrorists, knives only. And you just like, even though it's totally imbalanced, you do it anyway. And it was just completely community-driven just to make it happen. So that kind of stuff's great.
Yeah, we used to do in Perfect Dark. You could play 4 players playing as people, and then you could set the bot count on something like 8, and you could set the bot's AI on really fast, and you could set their character move speed super fast, and then you could restrict the weapons they used, and so we would make them chops only, melee attacks only, high speed movement, and like 8 of them, and like we'd have guns, but they'd basically be like zombies.
Yeah,
and we'd be like holding rooms and seeing how long we could hold, and that was like a way that we would totally basically like nowadays that would be a mod, right? It'd be like like zombie mode. So
that's super cool.
Yeah, I think that's something we've always been doing.
Perfect Dark, that's a deep cut.
That
game sucks.
The Xbox 360 one I tried to convince myself was kind of cool, but man, what a disaster!
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Let's see. We're just scrolling through your stuffs, everybody.
Flamov says surfing in Counter-Strike was one of my faves. Flamov, what was that?
Surfing. I mean, I played other mods. Like I played Action Quake before Counter-Strike existed.
Yeah.
That was like something I did. Gary the Third, he asked this question earlier. How do you guys feel about Lawbreakers going very poorly at launch, player count-wise? I'll say that makes me sad.
Yeah, me too.
I never want a game to fail, especially a game that's trying to do something like not... Like that game, in every way, shape, and form, seems like it would have been a game that everyone's like, oh, it's a free-to-play game, of course, and then they're trying something different. Also, I have friends that work at the studio. I think Cliff Blazinski is a nice enough dude. I don't want him to like fail at what he tries to do, but also I have friends that work there. I don't know. It seems like that game's actually trying to do something interesting, like rather than just be Unreal Tournament or something, or just be like, again, people compare it a lot to Overwatch because it is class based, but it is a very different feeling game than Overwatch. Not at all the same, but yeah, I mean, it's always a bummer to see like a game that seems like it's doing something and it's well made, not doing well. Like I felt the same way about Titanfall 2. Like the whole time Titanfall 2 was out, you're like, why is this doing like? I guess you could say you had some idea about the launch window it had and stuff like that, but Titanfall 2 was like an exceptionally well-made game, and it was really cool, and then you'd hear about the numbers tanking and how, like, you know, you'd read those interviews about, is it going to have a sequel? And you're like, ugh, and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, of all games, like, that seemed like it should have been a real thing.
Yeah, Titanfall 2, after Titanfall 1, Titanfall 2 seemed like such an easy win, and it's like, it's one of those things where I don't think anybody's ever going to have, like, the answer as to why it didn't do well. Lawbreakers, I think, is just faced with too much competition from too many corners.
Yeah, there's a lot of shooters out there asking for your attention, especially ones that are... I mean, first off, you are, for better or worse, regardless of how similar or different your game is, if you're making a shooter that is not super militaristic, you're competing with the Overwatch.
Yeah.
And so the first order of business when you're designing this game is, what are we going to do to make people stop playing Overwatch and come play our game? Because that's the objective number one.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like, I don't know, like it's really tough to, especially for something that people are so ingrained with their time.
Yeah. And, you know, the free-to-play multiplayer shooter thing, it's sort of like the MMO space. Everybody thought that the number of MMO players in the world was just unlimited. They just hadn't... You know, they just had to create variations on a formula, and they could always find a new audience. And people realized real quick that that's not the case. You know, there's a few big MMOs, and everybody else can have successful runs at MMOs, but success for these second and third tier MMOs looks a lot different than success for the big ones. And I think that's the case with free-to-play shooters in general, is that, like, you know, the number of the people out there that are willing to put the time into a free-to-play shooter, it's probably a lot more limited than you might think.
Let's see. Let's take a question from our emails.
Email. What's the one about Splinter Cell?
Okay. This is a follow-up letter as well.
Oh, yeah.
From the person that said he sent the package to Ubisoft. He said that he wrote on a package to Ubisoft, and he sent a letter that said...
That's right. He sent a letter.
New Splinter Cell, please, on top of the package that he knew was going to Ubisoft.
Yep.
And he said, I did not get fired, and I haven't heard about a Splinter Cell leak, so I think the Ubi employee that ordered from the company I work at is totally perfectly fine, too. Also, I did fix and find that problem. He sent us a video as well. So he made a video that was... editing out all of the Last of Us stuff, except without the game. Just editing The Last of Us into a movie, basically.
Oh, nice. But yeah, he so this guy Andrew, he worked at a packaging company. I guess he was sending a package to somebody at Ubisoft, and so he wrote "Next Splinter Cell, please" on that package. So I'm glad you didn't get fired, Andrew. All right. Who's that one from?
This is from Andrew Mann. This is a gentleman we've met several times. He's from Texas.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about his real firm handshake, and then he talked about how He actually wrote into us about his handshake at one point, and how it came from, I think, like people being way too like tough around him or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was just writing in about our old shirts that he still has a picture of.
Yeah, he sent us a picture of it too.
He has an old shirt from 2009, and he says, "Any chance we'll release the old 2000 design for sale again? I want to wear the shirt, but me, Arthur, and Tyler all signed it, and he's afraid of wearing out the signatures." And he says, "I literally remember the shirt arriving minutes before I left for the airport to PAX 2009. A day later, I was wandering at Expo Hall when I saw Arthur and Anthony pointing at my shirt with big smiles on their faces." Man, 2009, that was literally when the show was made.
Yep.
So
same year.
I'll talk with Arthur. He may still have the PSDs around.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're gonna have to take a picture of your shirt, really high res, and then recreate it.
I bet you Arthur would want to recreate it anyway.
Yeah.
Just because artists improve over time.
It's true. Although the style is still like obviously Arthur's.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Let's see.
It's good stuff. D Hunter X says people still play TF1, which is crazy. Yeah, it's still a great game.
The 2009 shirts, for people asking, they were very themed around early jokes about the show. So I don't know that they would play the same way unless you're like a super long time fan.
But it would be fun to put them up for those super long time fans, even if they were like a super limited run or something.
Yeah. So we may post a shirt at some or a picture of it at some point, but I don't know.
Yeah.
No, not fat penis references.
Is it a Press X for Chimp Attack shirt? No.
Oh yeah,
good reference.
That's wow. That Robert. I mean, they're in the very beginning of Rebel FM. For people that haven't listened, we got like every week had a different person on for a long time.
Yeah.
We were much better, and there was actually a lot more people available back then, it felt like, to get on as guests. So we had a lot of people randomly on there all the time, and that one was Robert Ashley.
Oh yeah.
And he was I think he had a few beers and he was feeling pretty good, and man, we went to some really dumb places. So,
yep. But I mean, if anything, that just says that we need to be drinking more on the show.
Yeah, apparently so.
Well, at least for those of us that aren't naturally funny, like you have natural comedy. I only get funny when drunk.
To some degree, but it's funny because when I would do comedy about and stuff, then I'd be around people who are much more like that, and I am not like that. Like I have a dry sense of humor a lot of times where I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna wait to say something that's probably a little not okay, and that's how I'll try and make people joke. Like I was talking in the elevator today, and I realized it was kind of amusing, at least to me, that this random business person in the elevator was listening to me tell stories from that Stomping Lands game, and I was like, yeah, you remember that game? It was fun because we caught someone one time, and then we would drag them out in the water until they almost drowned and pull them back out and do it again. And I was just thinking about this poor business person listening to me be a weird sociopath. Wall6969, the Rebel FM with David Clayman is my favorite, really funny. I don't even remember having David Clayman on this show. And that dude was my boss, so that tells you everything. Yeah. That tells you everything I don't remember. Isn't it weird? It's a weird world, right? Phil Collar did the intro in the first episode, and Arthur wasn't even working like as a professional in the industry, and now then Arthur was Phil Collar's boss.
Yep.
It's a weird, small world that we live in.
It is definitely weird. More drunk Matt, please, says Zeppelins.
Yeah, I feel like
we probably do that.
It sucks in some ways because we've all become so busy, but we used to do a lot more Rebel FM where it was like, we'll all get together, and then we're all going to get... I mean, you guys still do this a bit more. I'm unfortunately commuting from a bit further away, but we'd always eat dinner beforehand. And Rebel FM was a lot of times like a 5-hour event in a lot of ways, because we'd go out to eat and we'd shoot the shit forever, and then we'd go back to the house.
And then record a podcast. Yeah, occasionally we'd be having a discussion at dinner, and we'd go, save it for the show.
That's true. That is a very common thing that... Occasionally we remember to do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll probably do some more diner episodes and stuff like that. I always like doing those.
Yep, they're fun.
People get a little distracted by them, so they're kind of hit and miss with people depending on the audio. Hopefully the audio for this episode has been okay, and to all the people that watch the stream, thank you. I hope that you liked us trying out a live format.
Yep.
I think it was... I had fun.
I did too. You made it fun for me.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. And yeah, I guess that's going to wrap it up. You can send your letters to letters@eat-sleep-game.com. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at chuffmoney. Matt's at Talking Orange. You can go to area5.tv if you have video work that you need done by the best. And you can go to twitch.tv/chuffmoney if you want to watch me stream some Battlegrounds. So,
which you will probably be doing later tonight, I would imagine.
We'll see. I'm going to definitely, after this, spend some time with my fiance, and we'll see. So, yep. TBD, if you want to know, follow me on Twitter. If you're listening to this later on, I don't know, you're fucked. Because that night already is come and gone. So,
and we recorded a thing last week before Arthur left.
Yes, I'm just waiting to get a little bit of audio files, so I guess I'll, I'm going to, real quick, it's going to, for people watching live, it'll be a little different, but here's a little message from Arthur. Okay. And for the non-Twitch people, for the rest of you still here, thanks for watching, anyways. And, that's it.
We love you. Bye.
Go about your lives. Bye.